James and Ben back here for Odds Checker. We got one of the biggest UFC cards coming up here this Saturday in Abu Dhabi. We're going to get right into it right now, shall we? And we're actually going to start in the prelims because this fight, I think, should be on the main card, but it's not. Belal Muhammad, Sean Brady, really interesting matchup in the welterweight division. And right now you can see it there. Sean Brady, a slight favorite at -140. The comeback on Belal Muhammad, +115. Which way are you going on this one?
Man, I think a lot of the odds are really weird this weekend. And this is one of them for me. I can see why people love Sean Brady, undefeated. That usually draws a lot of public interest when they see a guy who's undefeated like that. So I can imagine why these odds are like this, but Belal Muhammad, man, I mean, he looks like he's on a mission. That Vicente Luque fight, Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy, I mean, like, these are really good wins, and this is going to be the biggest test for Sean Brady to date. I don't know. I don't really see how these odds are justified in my opinion. But yeah, that price tag on an undefeated fighter, it's like, oh, -140 on an undefeated fighter, no problem. So I don't know. I like Muhammad a lot here. I think he's the more tested fighter. He has more experience against these top level opponents. So I like Muhammad as an underdog.
See, I love when we start off the show and we disagree here because I see this fight a lot differently. So, again, first off, let me just say the play here, if you're going to make any play, is the fight goes the distance. There's a reason this is on the prelims. These two guys do not finish a lot of their opponents. So I could see that happening here as well. So have a look at that. Maybe if you want to parlay that, I know you're not going to get amazing odds there or whatever. Or if you like either guy, go by decision. I don't think we're going to see a finish here over 3 rounds. But with all that said, I kind of look at Bilal's wins a little bit differently. Damian Maia retired shortly after that, and he couldn't finish him in that fight, something Gilbert Burns was able to do. Stephen Thompson, I mean, there's a way to beat Stephen Thompson now. It's out wrestle him. Apparently that's been abandoned in all of his game plans. And then the Luque fight, I'll give him credit. That was a good game plan. He also showed some stand-up in that one. But what did we see in Luque's last fight with Jeff Neal? He got destroyed. I think these wins are a little inflated. And a lot of people look at Sean Brady's last win over Michael Chiesa, where he gassed in the 3rd round. But I spoke to Brady. He had nose surgery. Apparently, that was related to the nose issue, and his cardio is off the roof. I talked to one of his teammates the other day. I actually talked to Brady ahead of this fight, and he doesn't think it's going to be an issue here. So I think Brady is the better fighter. I think this is going to be his coming out party. I like Brady by decision. I think that's the play. I don't think he finishes Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad's been finished one time in the octagon, and it was against Vicente Luque in their first fight, and it was a quick win. Brady doesn't have that type of power. I like Brady by decision here, but I also like the fight goes the distance. Neither of these guys are finishers. It's only 3 rounds. I think we're going to see this fight hit the scorecards. So my official pick is Sean Brady by decision.
I like that one.
Next fight, we're going to look at the fight that got on the main card instead of them. It is Katlyn Chookagian and Manon Fiorot. And right now the odds makers have Manon Fiorot as almost a 2-1 favorite here, -190 to come back on Chookagian, +160. Which way are you going here? Big fight in the flyweight division.
It is, yeah, probably some title implications here. Of course, they'll both be +1,000 against against Valentina. But I mean, you got to look at this fight, and Chookagian, obviously the more experienced fighter. She's extremely well-rounded, but it feels like a lot of times when I watch her, it's just too close all the time. She's always fighting close fights, and she got the right end of the split decision last time, but it feels like even when it's a unanimous decision, it's always close. And I think that might be her downfall in this fight. Fiorot, I mean, even though she's less experienced, I think she's a little bit hungrier. She fights, she hits really hard. She's actually landed some knockouts, which you don't see a lot, especially in women's flyweight. You don't see a lot of knockouts. And so, yeah, she has a power advantage in this fight. I think how she's going to win is by landing heavier shots and more damage. But I don't necessarily love getting her at -200 odds. It sounds super risky, but I'd almost say take her inside the distance. We have seen Chookagian get knocked out before. Granted, it was a while ago, but she has been knocked out twice before. And so I think if I was going to play anything, I don't really love playing Fiorot at -200 here. So I'd say take her inside the distance as a little sprinkle play. It's not a super confident pick, but if I'm going to make a pick in this fight, I'd probably take that. I haven't looked at her odds. Odds by her on knockout are +490 right now. So I'd say if anything, that'd be my long shot play here. I don't really like anything else, to be honest.
No, I agree with you in the sense that if you're going to bet Fiorot here, it's inside the distance. She does have power. We see her, we saw earlier in her UFC career get a number of finishes here. Granted, one was an injury, but still, she hits like a truck. And the 2 fights you referenced, one was Valentina Shevchenko, where Chookagian was finished, but also Jessica Andrade finished her in the first round. And that's actually what got Andrade that title shot. So same thing could happen here, but I don't think it happens. Katlyn Chookagian, there's 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and Katlyn Chookagian winning by decision. It always happens. Remember, this was, I remember a couple fights ago against Antonina Shevchenko, Valentina's sister, where everyone was all high on Shevchenko and thought, oh, she's going to knock her out or whatever. And Chookagian won by decision. She either, like, Caitlin always goes the distance, it seems. And I just think with her experience, I think she's being overlooked a little bit. They're around the same age. And actually, Chookagian has a height and reach advantage in this fight. I could see Chookagian making this kind of boring. She's, ranked number 2 for a reason. I wasn't that impressed with Fiora in her last fight. I was very high on her going into the Jennifer Maia fight. And I think in that fight, it showed that she's not a top 5 fighter right now. Maybe she is. Maybe she proves it. Maybe she gets a knockout. Maybe everyone's happy getting that plus 400 money, like you mentioned there. But I think more likely than not, Chookagian makes this her fight. She keeps her neutralized and she wins a decision here. So I'm going Chookagian by, as the underdog here, but I'll take her by decision to get even better odds here. So I think Chookagian spoils the party and gets it done here. And I think this, you're right. I think the value is way too high here on Fiora. Again, they both have the common opponent in Jennifer Maia, and I thought Chookagian had a better win over her personally. So I'm going to go Caitlin Chookagian.
This seems like a perfect spot to do what we did
a couple weeks ago. Right. I was going to mention that actually. Yeah, I would say that actually. Do Chookagian by decision or do Fiora by finish? Because I don't think Fiora's winning a decision here. Maybe she does, but it's. I mean, I think Caitlin at some point the durability is going to go out the window, and that could happen in this fight. So yeah, the pick's going to be
The judges seem to love Chookagian. Every time it seems like it goes to his scorecards, it seems like she's being favored, even in a fight where it seems like she shouldn't win. I don't know if it's just that her striking tends to look like it's landing when it's not. I don't know what it is.
She's vocal when she fights. She does the hut or whatever,
the judges
right?
love her. So I don't think Fiora can win a decision. I think she's going to have to go all out in this one and try for the finish.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, next fight we're going to look at here. Interesting one. Beneil Dariush, Mateusz Gamrot. And right now the odds makers have Gamrot as the favorite at minus 195. The comeback on Dariush plus 165. I think this is going to be potentially a fight of the night here. Love this matchup. Who are you liking here?
Me too. I think this is one of the most interesting fights for the future of the division because, Dariush, he's been getting, the cold shoulder. He was supposed to fight Charles Oliveira. That got canceled. He was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev. That got canceled, and now they're both fighting for the title, which is technically vacant. But, if Dariush wins this one, I think he either gets one of the top guys, maybe Gaethje, maybe Poirier, and then fights for the title. So he's been put off for a long time. He's been a dark horse for a while. I really like him. He's only 33. When you look at how many fights he's had in the UFC, it's kind of amazing to see he's only still 33. So he's honestly not like getting old or anything. You don't really have to worry about age yet. And he's fought a lot of the top guys. Gamrot, this is a big test for him. He looked amazing. I would actually say if you were to tell me these odds before he fought his last fight against Arman, I'd say, why are the odds like this? But he looked really good against Arman. So I can see these odds being justified in this spot, but Dariush, I feel like this is just his time. I like these odds on him in this spot. And I think they are a little bit higher than they would have been if Gamrot didn't look as good against Arman. And this is a really tough fight to pick. I would like it more. I would like Gamrot a lot more if these odds were closer. So I think for me, the play is Dariush just because the odds are where they are as like a value play. But this fight's really close. I don't think I'm going to bet this one. I think I'm just going to watch this one as a fan because this is going to be, like you said, very potential fight of the night bonus. If Gamrot can't take him down, I think Dariush will have the edge on the feet and be able to kind of edge him out on the feet and go to the scorecards. But if Gamrot can land an early takedown, that could be it.
I don't think we've ever done a show where we're on the opposite side for the first 3 fights because I like Gamrot a lot here. There's a couple reasons why I like him. So first and foremost, Beneil Dariush has not fought in a very long time. The last time he fought was against Tony Ferguson in May of 2021. That's a long layoff. Gamrot's been more active. Gamrot just fought in a fight of the year against Arman Tsarukyan in a fight that, some people felt could have gone the other way, but really high level fight for the division here. Yeah. And, they have a couple common opponents here, Scott Holtzman, Diego Ferreira. And if you look at what Gamrot's done in those fights, he's looked a little bit more impressive, right? He finished Diego Ferreira. Jeremy Stevens, he finished him in the first round. I know Stevens isn't in the UFC, also finished Scott Holtzman. There's a theme in Dariush's career, and I'm going to make a bold pick on this fight, and I'm going to, this is how I'm going to back it up here. And again, I know fighters can improve and they can get better and all these different things, but there's been a theme in Dariush's career, and I'm going to point it out right now. Alexander Hernandez, first round knockout loss. Edson Barbosa, second round knockout loss. Chiesa submission, big deal. Ramsey Nijim, first round knockout loss. There is a way to beat Dariush, and that's if you rush him early. And Hernandez did that to a T. And granted, if Hernandez and Dariush fought again, it would pick Dariush 9 times out of 10. But I think Gamrot can do that here. We saw Gamrot. You see a number of knockout wins in his career here. If you look at it here, he's got some good stand-up. I know you mentioned he might have the edge if he takes this down, but I think his stand-up's just as good.
Mhm.
And again, we saw the win over Stevens, but I believe there was a knockdown to a submission as well in that fight. But I'm going Gamrot first round knockout. I think he goes out there, he blitzes this guy. The UFC has already announced that Alexander Volkanovski is going to get the winner of Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. That's got to be pissing him off. He probably thought he had a chance, and then there was talk even of Dariush being the backup instead of him. So I think he's a man on a mission. He's 31 years old. I know he did his entire camp in American Top Team. Like I said, he's been a little bit more active as well. I think Gamrot goes out there and gets the finish. So not only do I think that, I think it will be close, but kind of looking at this on paper, but I'm going bold here. I'm going Gamrot. So I'm going to take Gamrot by inside the distance, just in case it's a submission instead. But I'm also going to take him in round one, just because we have seen Dariush lose early on, and I think Gamrot, if you're smart, take the guy who hasn't been in the cage for more than a year and take advantage of that. So I'm going Gamrot by first round knockout. Bold pick here. I don't do this too often, but I'm going bold pick here.
Well, no, that is smart because Dariush. I mean, if there's any way to come out against someone who's had kind of some of that ring rust, maybe it is to get him early. And the odds on Gamrot inside the distance are plus 225. That's pretty good for a fighter who's minus 200. But yeah, like you said, Dariush, when he's losing, he's getting knocked out. So I like that pick a lot, actually.
And also, just one more quick thing. If you remember his win over Drakkar Close actually was like he actually hit Dariush a few times and nearly knocked him out himself. And then it was Dariush who ended up coming back and getting the overhand left and knocking out Close in that fight. So we see a habit of him getting hit a lot. Gamrot, I think his striking defense is very good. Again, I'm going bold here. Might not happen, but I think Gamrot first round finish. Okay. Let's get to me, one of the most, there's two really interesting fights in this. Actually, the last three are really interesting, but Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley. Money's been coming in on Sean O'Malley. I remember at one point, Yan was, closer to like a 4-1 favorite. And now you see the line, it's minus 310. The comeback on O'Malley plus 255. We should mention only a 3-round fight, which you would have to think to some degree favors O'Malley because he does have early finishes, whereas Yan, I won't call Yan a slow starter, but he does make those rounds early on a little bit closer than they need to be here. So which side are you on in this one?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it on the head there. I think O'Malley, I think he's going to be the most bet fight of the night for sure. He's one of the most popular fighters, I'd say, on the roster who isn't a champion. People love him. He's flashy. He's got the ego. He's got the confidence to go along with it. And he's a very, very flashy and very technical striker. I mean, his accuracy on his punches are amazing. But you look at kind of some of the guys he's fought. I mean, he took Chris Moutinho to the 3rd round before he knocked him out. And that was a technical knockout because he didn't actually go unconscious. It was just called because he was absolutely battering him. But still, he didn't knock him unconscious. And then, he took Almeida to the 3rd round as well. And then you look at Petr Yan. He's never been knocked out. And he has fought some tough strikers. He's fought some hard hitters. He's never been knocked out. I think that is a big thing here. He has a tested chin, and he's going up against someone who's probably main path to victory, and not even probably. O'Malley's main path to victory here is a knockout.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at the fight that way, these odds are definitely justified. A lot of people are taking O'Malley. They're like, oh, plus money in this spot, this is too easy. But you really have to look at how is O'Malley going to win. You have to look at the path of victory here, and I don't see him knocking out Petr Yan. So could he win a decision? Yes. But if Yan takes him down, what's O'Malley going to do to respond? How is he going to look? I don't know. Is he going to be able to stand up right away, or is he going to get controlled on the ground for the entire round? So 3 fights definitely does favor him, because if this is 5, I'd be taking Petr Yan all day, every day, twice on Tuesdays. But he definitely does have a chance in a 3-round fight, but he's going to have to use his reach advantage. That is his main thing here. He has to use that reach advantage. He has, I think it's like a 5 or 6.
Yeah, you see it there, 72 compared to 67, and then 5'11" to 5'7". So I think I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure O'Malley's one of the biggest guys he's ever fought, if not the biggest.
Definitely. So he's going to have to use that to win this fight, because he can use his length. But I mean, we saw Chito Vera almost expose that. He, battered that leg up pretty good. Yan could do the same thing. I think Yan just has more paths to victory in this fight. So the odds are justified to me. I don't even know if I can make an official pick here. I'd say maybe Yan by decision, because I don't really necessarily think he would finish O'Malley here. But I want to pick, my heart says O'Malley, but my brain says Yan.
Finally, we agree here. Petr Yan by decision. That's the only thing is, you brought that up about the leg kicks, because that's how Chito Vera ended up defeating him. And I know people say, oh, Sean got injured in that fight. Well, who do you think hit his foot in that fight. It was
Yeah.
Chito Vera, right? So we could see that as well. But especially with Jan training at Tiger Muay Thai this camp, they're obviously very focused on the leg kicks and all that stuff. But yeah, I think the most likely outcome here is just based on the data we have is Jan by decision, because even if you look at his finishes, they're later finishes. Jose Aldo was a 5th round finish. Uriah Faber was a 3rd round finish. Like, I just don't think that we're going to see him get like a quick win here. And it's only 3 rounds. I think you could, if you wanted to be creative, you could go like what we did with the women's fight, O'Malley by knockout, because again, he might surprise here, and maybe this is the fight where Jan gets knocked out, but I think it's more likely Jan wins the decision here. So you could go Jan by decision, O'Malley by knockout, get creative with the odds here, but I'm going Jan by decision. That's the way I'm betting this fight. I will be betting that. And the only issue I have here is like Jan's got so much to lose here, right? Like, he just lost the title. He's supposed to win this fight. He was a big favorite. O'Malley really doesn't have a ton to lose. Like, he's a big enough personality. He can spin this however he wants. Always a big jump up, whatever. Jan's got a lot to worry about here. But it's just, if you look at the level of opposition, it's not even close. Jan's fought the best guys in the weight class. O'Malley hasn't fought anything close to this. Even Pedro Munoz, that was a close fight before the eye poke. I'm going Jan by decision. I'm going to keep it simple here. Okay, next fight. Really interesting one for the bantamweight title. It's Aljamain Sterling, the current bantamweight champion, against former champion TJ Dillashaw. And right now the odds makers have the Funkmaster -170, the comeback on Dillashaw +145. Who are you going with here?
I'm gonna be going with Sterling, but again, not a super confident pick for me. TJ Dillashaw, if this was gonna be the fight he came back from off his layoff, from his suspension, I would say I'd say Aljamain Sterling easily. But TJ Dillashaw looked really good against Sandhagen. So that makes this fight a little more interesting. Yes, it was a split decision, but I thought personally he won that fight. But he's going to have to come into this with a very good game plan against Sterling, because Sterling seems to be a very smart fighter, especially recently. He knows what he needs to do, and he does it effectively. We saw him do it against Piotr Jan twice, even though he probably was losing that first one. Definitely, in my opinion, won the second one. So, I mean, Sterling is a very good game planner. He's a very good coach. And I think if this fight gets on the ground, Sterling can find Dillashaw's back. He's done it against multiple opponents. Even when he isn't finding the submission, he's getting in those advantageous positions to win on the scorecards. I think all that put together, Sterling probably will win this fight, but I don't like -175. A lot of these fights on this card to me are just scary lines to take, because, -175 doesn't sound like a lot of juice, but that's kind of a lot of juice to take in a fight. So I don't know, not a super confident pick for me. If I was going to take anything here, I'd say Sterling by submission, but that's a scary pick against Dillashaw, because he's not necessarily an easy guy to submit. So I don't know. Tough one here for me. I want to hear what you think about this one, because
second toughest fight on the card to pick, in my opinion. Because here's the thing: if it's anything close to the old Dillashaw, he's got obviously the edge on the feet, I think, and Sterling's got the advantage in the wrestling and the submission game. But here's the thing: like, how many fighters at Dillashaw's age, 36, coming in with the layoff, having a multitude of injuries? Like, remember, during that USADA suspension, he had to get surgery. He also, was coming off an injury heading into this fight, long layoff. I mean, that doesn't bode well. You don't see many fighters have that type of career trajectory later in their career and find success. Aljo's been more active. I think the fight against Jan really showed that he is that good. Obviously, he's the champion right now. To me, save yourself the headache here and bet the fight goes the distance. These two guys are extremely tough to finish. I know I had someone this week point out that, Dillashaw has all these knockout wins over Garbrandt. He's been knocked out a number of times. Sterling's been finished one time in the UFC by Marlon Moraes. Dillashaw has been finished 2 times. One was against John Dodson in his UFC debut, which was in 2011. The other time was at flyweight when he was on steroids against Henry Cejudo, and that was probably due to the weight cut here. So I don't think we'll see a finish here. I think this is going to be like the Sandhagen fight. It's going to be close. I do see Sterling having the nod here, but I don't want to get robbed on a judge's decision or something here. So I'm going to take the fight goes the distance. I believe it's under 2-1 odds right now. So you could even just play it straight or parlay that with something else on the card that you like here. But I think Sterling wins here. I think, again, like, I'd have to look up the data, but I know fighters that are older, coming off injuries, coming off layoffs, do not fare very well. Sterling's gotten that in his back pocket. And the last thing I'll say is Corey Sandhagen beat Dillashaw. So that's another reason to like him here. And Aljamain Sterling finished Corey Sandhagen. So there we go. I'm going Sterling by decision here. Okay, toughest fight on the card to predict. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev. Maybe you and I disagree on this, but I think this is the toughest fight to pick, because there's a big what if here with Islam Makhachev. Yes, he's looking amazing, but he's not fought that top 5 opponent. Oliveira has. And right now, Oliveira is the underdog at +155. Islam Makhachev, the favorite, at -180. I believe the odds were actually higher on Islam, so money coming in on Oliveira here. I got to get your pick here. Who you going with?
So you're right. Islam Makhachev opened as a -210 favorite. That's the
Hmm.
opening line I saw. And he's been bet down despite, from what I've seen, a lot of people are picking Makhachev, which means one thing, that a lot of sharps are buying in on Oliveira. At least in my eyes, that's what it looks like is happening. Because the line's coming down, but it seems like a lot of people I talk to, they're all backing Islam. They're like, oh, this is time. Khabib Nurmagomedov, all that kind of tie-in, Dagestani fighter. And I'll tell you one thing. I bet I bet Gaethje against Oliveira. I lost. I bet Poirier against Oliveira. I lost. I bet Chandler against Oliveira, and I lost. I'm sick of betting against this guy. He has been so proven, and his stand-up has improved so much. That fight against Michael Chandler, I hope all of you who are watching this have watched that fight if you weren't watching it live, because that man was almost knocked out in the first round. He was rocked by Michael Chandler, who a lot of people say is the hardest hitter at 155, despite Justin Gaethje. And then instantly, he spends 30 seconds to a minute on the stool, gets up, knocks him out in the second round. I mean, that was a crazy fight to watch. And it just proves to me Oliveira has the chin. He has an excellent stand-up game to go along with some of the best jiu-jitsu at 155. And Makhachev, I mean, this fight for me, you said it's a tough fight to predict. I think Oliveira is going to win this one. It's probably one of my most confident picks on the card, to be honest with you. I think Makhachev is the better pure wrestler, but Oliveira is very good off his back. And I think it's not a question. I think Islam will land some takedowns in this fight. He's the best pure wrestler at 155. But once we get there, what's Oliveira going to do? He's very good off his back. I think he'll be able to stand up or maybe even keep it off the ground. And Islam, he does have good hands. He has good knockouts. But like you said, he hasn't been fighting people like Charles Oliveira. And Oliveira's chin is tested. His stand-up is tested. He landed a very impressive knockout over Michael Chandler. I think this is his fight. And I think he's going to get that belt back despite losing it.
I'm with you. I am with you here. I just say it's close because I don't know. Like Islam has looked so good against the opponents he's fought, but I also feel like Charles Oliveira would do the same thing. Like that's something that gets lost here. Like people acting like him beating Bobby Green is some like impressive feat. I have no doubt that Charles Oliveira would defeat him as well. And those two fights were on short notice. Like the thing with me is like there's three things that I look at in this fight where I think Oliveira, can win. Number one is the fact that his stand-up's better. I know there's all types of fans that say that Islam has great stand-up. That may be true, but if you look at him fighting like a Thiago Moises, who's actually like a decent striker, he took him into the fourth round and finished him there, and Moises is nowhere close to Oliveira's level here. The second thing is you look at those 8 losses. I think that's good for Oliveira. He's faced adversity. I'm a firm believer in this, that he's seen everything that Islam's going to show him in terms of being in those bad situations here. Islam hasn't. He has one loss. You could call it a fluke. It was a very quick win by Adriano Martins. He got right back up after the knockout. He hasn't faced that type of adversity. And you mentioned the Chandler fight. I was the same way. I have picked Charles in all those fights. Ever since he beat Kevin Lee, I bet Charles since then. I've been quite successful with that. And in the Chandler fight, I thought, oh, great, he's done. But then he proved us wrong and he got it done, right? So it was very impressive here. But what I think the edge is Oliveira's striking. Like I said, I think he's going to keep. I think here's the thing: Oliveira can get as many takedowns as Islam can get as many takedowns as he wants. But if it stays on the feet, the fact that Oliveira went toe to toe with Gaethje in his last fight shows me that he does not care about anyone striking. Gaethje is miles ahead in the striking department than Islam Makhachev is. All Oliveira has to do is catch him and then get a TKO finish, and that's what I think is going to happen here. I'm going third round knockout by Charles Oliveira. I'm going to bet him by knockout. I'm going to bet him as an underdog, and I might even bet the round 3 prop because I think Islam might get a few takedowns, and then he makes a mistake and Oliveira takes advantage. But I like Oliveira here. Again, what it comes down to for me is the experience, the adversity he's overcome, the fact that, there's so many reasons for him to be pissed off. He's got Khabib saying that it's going to be an easy win for Islam. He's got, his coach saying he's already the greatest lightweight of all time when he hasn't beat a top 5 opponent. Like that's got to get under your skin. And not only the fact was Oliveira wanted to fight in Brazil. He has to fight in Abu Dhabi, which is technically Islam's backyard. There's a lot of Muslim fans there. They're going to be cheering for him. I think Oliveira is going to surprise here and get it done. And to be honest, I do a series on my YouTube channel where I ask the fighters. The majority of fighters feel like Oliveira is going to win as well, despite the odds favoring Islam here. So Oliveira third round knockout. I'm going to keep it simple here.
What's funny here is I thought you were getting towards. I did an odds checker article on this one already, and my second prediction besides Oliveira was I said third round submission because it was plus 2,400. But the more and more we talk about this fight, I am leaning more towards the knockout because I mean, what you mentioned there about his last few fights, Justin Gaethje is someone that Khabib Nurmagomedov actually called the best striker and the hardest hitter he's faced. Khabib said that in an interview one time. And Gaethje looked excellent against him. Well, granted, there wasn't that much time to look excellent because it was a first round submission, but he still, neutralized that striking. And Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler, I mean, these are excellent strikers, top 5 strikers in at 155 and even in the UFC, to be honest. So, I mean, looking that way against those strikers, Islam, he is a good striker, but I don't think he's on that same level, like you said, against Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. So if he wins, it's going to have to be with that wrestling, that grappling, but Oliveira is good off his back. So I agree here. I think it's going to be a 3rd round finish. I don't think this is going to be finished in the 1st round or so. They're going to feel each other out a little bit, but that 3rd round seems like we both like. So maybe a 3rd round sprinkle here.
Yeah, really big fight. This has got to be one of the best lightweight fights of all time. 2 guys in their prime, and just, again, we're going to get a lot of answers about Islam Makhachev. Again, he could go out there and win. I really do think it's 50-50, despite the fact I'm picking Charles by finish, because maybe this is the fight where Islam has the recipe to beat Charles that other people haven't. It's a different style for him. We'll have to see what happens. Just quick note here, this is an early start time, so if you're on the East Coast, or the West Coast, I should say, in my case, 7 a.m. this card starts, so you got to get up a little bit earlier here, so make sure you don't miss it. It's UFC 280. For myself, for Ben, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the fights this Saturday, and may the winners be yours. Have a good one.